It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do, you do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Thursday podcast as we get ready to kick off a great sports weekend. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host broadcasting from left field, John Riley. We welcome you to Hacksaw's Headlines. Our podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. If you have projects for 2025, they've got materials. If you're looking for ideas, they'd be glad to be your consultant. When it comes time for work in the home, work in the office, or work on the back patio, think DIXIELINE Lumber. John Riley, what a cool weekend we have ahead of us, and it just started, and we're going so many directions today. A lot of topics on the table.
This is like one of the best weeks in sports, I think. Opening round of March Madness.
Yeah, we got college basketball to talk about. We're going to zero in on late-breaking stories in Major League Baseball. We got the wrap-up of NFL free agency. Got some other storylines that we're going to talk about. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. A reminder, when we're done with the podcast, after we've put all the topics on the table we think you like, we're going to open it up to you. It's called Fans Forum. John, for all the new people on live stream, how does Fans Forum work?
Okay, this is your chance to take a shot at Lee Hacksaw Hamilton.
And John Riley.
Yeah. So if you got a question or comment, you want to call out Hacksaw or me about anything in the world of sports, just type your take in the live chat on Facebook, X, or YouTube, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
And by the way, if you want to launch a scud, your scuds do make left field, where he is located with most of his opinions. But join us. Fans Forum has really become a popular segment on this podcast. Also want to remind you, if you like sports, please check my website. It is all written, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. It's there first thing every morning. You won't believe the volume of sports there is out there. Want you to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. When you go to my website, there's an orange box right at the top. Fill out the orange box. You'll get on our email list for special stuff that we send out almost on a daily basis. If you're on social media, you're on social media. I see all your stuff on social media. I want you to join my Twitter All-Star team on X. Just use my handle at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button. We're looking to rebuild that, get that thing back up to 10,000 followers. Join me on Twitter. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do on this podcast, Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, that allows you to get alerts every time you put something up. And we put a lot of stuff up on that different social media platforms. You will get the alerts there. So we're everywhere. John, just tell everybody how they can access Hacksaw's Headlines.
Okay, the podcast Hacksaw Headlines, we live stream on X, YouTube, and Facebook. And then we break down all the segments, and all of those segments as individual headlines are available on YouTube. We do those short commentaries that we put everywhere on Facebook, X, YouTube, Twitter. Oh, I said X already. Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, Rumble. What am I leaving out? I think that's everything.
We're in there everywhere. Just understand, we're on social media. We are bleeping brilliant at what we do. Okay, so we're going a lot of different directions. John, let's just start with what everybody's paying attention to at this hour through the end of the weekend. Weekend one, all things March Madness.
Okay, my Aztecs were not bleeping brilliant.
San Diego State. Mountain West Conference teams don't belong on the floor with Atlantic Coast Conference teams. They got beat on the boards. They got beat down the floor. They got their brains beat out. It was really hard to watch. I knew it was going to be tough coming. Carolina had obviously gone up and down, had good games, bad games, won some amazing games, got blown out of a whole pile of games during the course of the season. And then there was just the whole selection process, which kind of stained some reputations along the way. 95-68, that was the end of the scoreboard. 22-3 run on the first half. At one point, I would have never, ever imagined seeing Brian Dutcher team down 41-19. R.J. Davis hit 6 threes. He was bombing from everywhere on the court. They couldn't defend him. I mean, he drove by them. He went up to the hoop against their bigs and scored. He hit mid-range jumpers, and he hit it from the next area code. San Diego State had 8 baskets on offense in 20 minutes. But then again, offense has been a real struggle during the course of this entire season. And their guards in the first half, they were 3 for 18. And that was not a one-time incident because their guards staggered a lot during the second half of the season. And I was kind of appalled late in the second half. They were down by 40, and Miles Byrd had no baskets, and they were trailing by 40 points. UNC wound up hitting 14 threes along the way. North Carolina, too many athletes, too many bigs, too much speed, too much team defense along the baseline. Period, exclamation point. Bad night at the office. It's not the end of the world. San Diego State staggered the second half of the season. To me, the most critical thing, this was a really young basketball team. I view this season as a one-off. You know, people say, oh, they made the NCAA. Well, there's a hell of a lot of people make the NCAAs now because the field's been expanded. Thank you, John Riley. But, you know, we just have to be realistic here. How young this team was athletically, experience-wise. And the reality was, when the Aztecs went to the Sweet 16, when the Aztecs went to the Final Four, when the Aztecs played UConn in the championship game a couple of years ago, that was with a preponderance of 5th and 6th year guys who stayed in school, got the extra year via COVID. Going forward, you take a deep breath and say, this is a one-time aberration. They have to keep Guath and Miles Byrd in the program this year. Because I firmly believe with them as the anchors, with another year weight training, another year experience, with them in the program, with the young guys who got tons of minutes this year, and then the fact you're going to have Reese Waters and Nick Boyd coming back for their last year, this could be a hell of a team. And they still have scholarships to use to jump into the transfer portal to maybe get another big or two. And I have great confidence in Brian Dutcher. But that was hard to watch. Damn. Down by 40, and Miles Byrd has no baskets whatsoever in the game. That's as bad a blow as I think I've seen San Diego State take in a long time. Take a deep breath, file it, forget it. If you can get everybody to come back, you're going to be better for it next year based on this year's experience. John, don't shoot an air ball here. Give me an opinion.
This is a classic case of everything that could go wrong went wrong. Okay, you figure that they back themselves into a corner here by going down the stretch, you know, losing games, losing first round to Boise. They get a play-in game. Then the whole thing about the North Carolina controversy, which only made, you know, RJ Davis and all of his teammates all fired up. So they wanted to prove that they were legit. The Aztecs have to fly like 2/3 of the way across the country. They get the news on Sunday. They fly Monday morning. They have a game Tuesday night rather than give them another day on Wednesday. When they rolled into a hotel, I saw the video. The players were dragging. Even John Schaefer looked tired, you know. So, and then during the game, so many shots the Aztecs hit, like rattled in the rim and rattled out. And then meanwhile, Carolina was, like you say, hitting from every area code, often with an Aztec defender in their face. It was just one of those things where nothing worked.
Bad day at the office. File
Yes.
it, forget it.
Yes.
But to me, the most critical thing is not to lose Guath, not to lose Miles Byrd. And by the way, those kids are not ready to put their name in the NBA draft. They just need to come back, learn and play, learn from Ledee, learn from what Nathan Menson experienced, and become better players. Guarantee you a year from now, this team will be playing in the first round, in the second round, and maybe even deeper if they can keep this collective core together.
Well, they're going to get a lot of NIL offers. You know, they're going to be throwing 6 figures. You know, certainly at Magoon Guath. I mean, he'll get a lot of offers. So no guarantee this whole thing stays together. But I agree with you. If they keep it together, watch out next year.
So that's all things San Diego State. You're an Aztec fan, friend, alum, including those who have emailed me who are haters. Jump on board. Fans Forum chat box is open. If you have an opinion, please express it. We go from one team in town to the next team in town.
Historic day, baby. Here we go. UCSD against Michigan, and it's prime time tonight.
I would have sworn today you would have worn something related to the Tritons on this podcast.
Well, I was planning on it, but it was at the bottom of my hamper because I was wearing it over the weekend, which when they ended up beating Irvine in the Big West Championship.
UCSD, Michigan, final game of the day, the first day tonight, Thursday, NCAA. This is a Michigan team that is really rugged. This is a Michigan team that battered UCLA by 19. It's a Michigan team that played Michigan State tough twice. This is a Michigan State team that's got a 7'1" center and a 7-foot forward. And that's the big issue. I just don't know how the Tritons are going to cope with Vlad Golden and Dan Wolf. Between them, they're averaging 29 points and 15 rebounds a game. Those two bigs at Michigan, and their guard, Trey Donaldson's pretty good. What a phenomenal year for the Tritons. They have won 15 in a row as they take the floor tonight against the University of Michigan. Aniwaniwa Tait-Jones at 6'6", 19 points, 5 rebounds a game, and he's everywhere. Going to be a challenge for 6'8" Norton Capri. I don't know how Jones and Capri are going to be able to stay out of foul trouble against Michigan's bigs. But McGuy, Hayden Gray, between them have hit 176 threes this season. This team is shooting 46% from the floor, 37% from the arc. Now, they're going to have to hit a whole pile of threes, I think, to stay in the game. And maybe they do something creatively defensively, like go to a zone and try to prevent entry passes in. But I just don't know how the Tritons hold up against Golden and Wolf, 7 foot, 7'1" in on the block.
Well, they had a hell of a time with the big man from Irvine.
Yep.
You know, you saw Tait-Jones driving the lane, because he's so good at picking up the foul during the shot. And he couldn't get past the tree trunk of that dude from Irvine. So it's going to be trouble. This is going to be hard. To your point, they're going to have to hit threes like crazy. But, Seth Davis is high on them. Have you seen him? He's like got the Triton, the actual trident that the Triton carries around. And but the great thing is at UCSD, you see what the students are doing? They're taking masking tape and putting it over every M sign in throughout campus, like Muir College. There's like a big X through the M, So I think that's it's a perfect nerdy thing for UCSD to do. So this is going to be like must-see TV for me. And I just hope the Tritons can make it a game and maybe the impossible will happen.
The fascinating thing, Mark Ziegler wrote just a great story in the Union Tribune today, just about where these kids have come from. They're all Division II transfers and Division III transfers who decided to stay in school, step up. I mean, you only get to walk down this hallway one time in your life, probably in your career. How cool is this for these kids to be able to play in the tournament? Now, I hope it's not a 40-point blowout. Well, but you got the chance to play. You got the chance to experience March Madness. That goes in your memory scrapbook forever. That's so cool.
Well, not just for the players, but for the students and the alumni and all the fans. We're kind of all on the bus together.
Oh, you'll be getting the request from the Alumni Association per your donations, multiple foundations.
Yeah, I can expect that.
So, hey, you're into college basketball. I mean, we have been spoiled because of what Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher have done over here at San Diego State. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for these kids. This is just so cool. Now, let's move on. The Fans Forum chat box is open. If you're a Triton, go ahead, jump on board. Let's talk about what has started today, goes to tomorrow, rolls into Saturday and Sunday. We're talking first round, first weekend, March Madness.
Yeah, wall-to-wall TV coverage.
Let's start. Louisville Cardinals played the early game against Creighton. It had the potential to be a massive shootout, but Creighton won the ball game. A little bit too much Ryan Kalkenbrenner, a little bit too much Stephen Ashworth. They're the ones that led the Blue Jays to a win. Creighton has gotten progressively better and better and better since the season moved on. It's not the same Creighton team that San Diego State beat early in the year. Tough loss for Louisville. They were in the game, but they lost Ryan Smith in the second half with an ankle injury. Louisville is out. Creighton moves on. Next game. Oh, this is going to be good. This is 8 versus 9, which is always a great matchup, even Steven basketball. Gonzaga-Georgia. Georgia's led by 6'11" Asanul, averaging almost 20 points per game. Does not get a lot of national ink. Guy can stroke it. Gonzaga's got Graham Ike, the center. transfer, University of Wyoming, stayed in school an extra year, didn't take any money anybody offered him, stayed loyal to the Zags. And they've also got Ryan Nimbrand. This team, by the way, Zags are averaging 86 points per game. Next game, UCLA-Utah State. I guess the storyline here, Mick Cronin coached, cajoled, yelled, and screamed his team to a 22-9 record. It's been a really stormy year up at Pauley Pavilion. He's gotten them into the show, and they've gotten progressively better and better. They obviously have got the big man you got to pay attention to, Ade Mara. The big question is, do the guards at UCLA, who've been really streaky, do they show up and play against Utah State and play well? And in terms of USU, I just don't think they have the firepower or the toughness to hang with everything that UCLA's got. But again, which UCLA team shows up? Notably, does Dylan Andrews show up and play well, because he has been on a roller coaster all year in the backcourt. They got 4 guards, but you never know who to trust on game-to-game basis at UCLA. So, John, you want to talk about, you saw Creighton take out Louisville. You want to talk about the Zags? Talk about the Bruins? Go ahead.
I just want a West Coast team to win March Madness. I mean, I think it's been since UCLA in the mid-90s since that's happened. And so, Gonzaga, UCLA, Utah State, man, make a run. I hear the Utah State coach is starting to get some offers to maybe go elsewhere. That might be the 4th year in a row they're going to be one and done with their coach. Yeah, but there are not that many Division I jobs that are open right now, unless guys starting to get fired after the first round of the tournament. Zags are really good. Mark Few is brilliant, but this is not typical Gonzaga basketball. They don't have the collection of great players they've had in the past, especially in the bigs department, but they're good. It'll be a great matchup. I mean, I will say this, Gonzaga plays everybody. They'll play anybody, anytime, anywhere. That's on their schedule. It's really, really impressive. So I'm fascinated to see the Zags versus a pretty good SEC team at the University of Georgia. Next group of games to pay attention to. Whoa, this is good. This is Kansas versus Arkansas. This doesn't get any better than this. This is Bill Self against John Calipari. Arkansas's got a great guard, Boogie Fland. He's a bit banged up. He is not going to start. He's going to come off the bench. Kansas is led by the Michigan transfer, Hunter Dickinson. This is a 4-year starter, a 7-foot guy. I'll tell you what, Kansas and what Bill Self has done, look at this schedule they played. I went back and checked this out. Kansas's non-conference schedule included North Carolina, Duke, all things Tom Izzo at Michigan State, Creighton, Houston, University of Arizona. That's non-conference. That's who Kansas played non-conference. Wow. They wound up going 21-12. Arkansas's got Calipari. Arkansas's got a lot of athletes who run the floor, a whole pile of transfers. They were 20-13 in the SEC. There's just a game difference between Arkansas and Kansas. However, when Calipari's people played good teams in the SEC, John, they're only 3-6. So I'm not quite sure who Arkansas really is, but great coaching matchup, Calipari versus Bill Self. Marquette, New Mexico. Good game. Jake Smart, hell of a coach. And obviously, Richie Pitino done a great job in Albuquerque without a lot of resources. Great matchup. Cam Jones is averaging 20 points a game for Marquette. Donovan Dent. Boy, he's had a really nice couple years at New Mexico. And then the game is going to be fireworks, is all things UConn. They're always angry at somebody, led by Dan Hurley, against Oklahoma, which can be good some nights, dangerous some nights, and then self-destruct some nights. That's going to be a weird game to pay attention to, because not only will Hurley have his team ready to play the Sooners, he's going to have them ready to fight with the referees, because that's what UConn has become. They beef and bitch about everything. So that's going to be a good game too. So that's this next round of games you got to pay attention to. Thursday's games, and those are Friday's games. Yeah, I mean, I see that Razorback logo, and I think of Eric Musselman, and
sure.
So he went to SC now. He had built up Arkansas, did a great job there. I guess he went for the money, but he's not in the tournament this year. I've always liked that Kansas Jayhawk logo. It's kind of like the Baltimore Orioles logo in a way. It's fun, and I've always enjoyed that. I'll be rooting for the Lobos. I want to see the Mountain West do well, although I do like Marquette's uniforms. And yeah, it's going to be fun watching Dan Hurley out there. You know, my son graduated from Oklahoma, so I'll be rooting for the Sooners tonight.
It's going to be first round of games. There's going to be some shockers, I'm sure, somewhere along the way. So you're into NCAA basketball March Madness. We've kind of hit the hot button on San Diego State. Want you to salute UCSD, and we'll talk about some of the name games, name teams.
Can we talk just for a moment about the women's side of the tournament?
We can if you wish, because we're going to, let's just do this briefly. UCSD's Lady Tritons kind of walked into a grinder. Southern University jumped to a 21-point lead in the first half. UCSD's ladies team just couldn't really recover. Too many athletes at Southern University from the SWAC. San Diego State's Lady Aztecs, they play Saturday night, last game Saturday night against Kim Mulkey and LSU. And I hope it's not a 91-41 game, but it could be, because Mulkey's teams take no prisoners, and they have phenomenal athletes. And as good as San Diego State's Lady Aztecs are with Thea Clark and what they're getting with Villalobos and the other guards, I just don't think they have the firepower nor the depth to hold up. And Kim Mulkey has a career record at LSU of 119 wins and only 19 losses. This is going to be enormously hard for the Lady Aztecs. But they're in the tournament, but boy, they got a bad draw to start with. And Mulkey, she's got 4 NCAA rings. She takes no prisoners.
Yeah, she's a firebrand, you know. But I just like everything about this women's tournament. Have you noticed how the CBS coverage is integrating their studio show with men and women, and they'll talk about both sides, both parts of the tournament? I like that, you know, and you see a lot of these WNBA alumni, you know, former players up there talking. And I just generally, it's interesting to watch the women's game, isn't it? I mean, it's a different game. And it's nice seeing, you know, female athletes getting recognition. I like that. But it's nowhere near the same game as for the men. I mean, it's not even close. And that's why, you know, this whole notion of men competing in women's sports, could you imagine if that happened in this tournament? It would be just nuts. But I'll say this, though, about the women, is that it's kind of neat, you know, like with football, we like to watch the game, but we also like to watch sort of the masculinity of the men, kind of knocking them around. Or maybe we watch soccer because we like to look at the creativity of some of these soccer players' hairstyles. But in women's basketball, we're seeing the femininity of these players, and we're also seeing their style on the court. And I think having athletes that are expressive in other ways, I think is a cool thing.
I'll tell you what, the skill level on the ladies' side has just rocketed. And a year ago this week, the whole thread of conversation was all things Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
And now the whole thread of things is USC, Juju Watkins.
Yeah.
UCLA. South Carolina is back. LSU. I mean, there's so many great athletes, so many very good teams this year. It's going to be fun. Of course, UCLA is number 1 in the country now. And of course, USC is right there in the bracket, and South Carolina's in the bracket. So it'll be fun to watch.
It's going to be great. And you know, tough go for the Tritons last night, but good luck to the Lady Aztecs on Friday, right? Are they playing Friday or is it
Saturday night?
Saturday night.
Last game Saturday night.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck to them.
Okay. All things college basketball, feel free to be involved. One last topic on the table before we get to halftime. Let's talk a little NBA hoops.
The push to the playoffs for the Lakers and the Clippers.
These guys are really playing well together. I watched the Laker-Denver game close up last night. Of course, Denver, right before game time, scratched their 2 stars. There was no Joker. Jokic did not play. There was no Jamal Murray. He did not play. Both of them dinged up. Actually, their coach got into an argument with the media about why the hell you're withholding all this information. So at the end of the day, Lakers just stomped the Denver Nuggets. Luka went off for 31 points in 3 quarters. It was 14-2 Lakers inside of the first 2 minutes. Lakers just bombed away. And they just opened a massive, massive lead. But what you got is Luka doing this without LeBron. You got Luka doing it with Austin Reeves. All of a sudden, Jackson Hayes is starting to play a hell of a lot better in the paint, only because they have to double on Luka. So he's got more room to maneuver open. He's getting all these close-up shots. Same thing with Jared Vanderbilt. This looks like a really interesting Laker team, and they're going to get LeBron back. Now, The big issue is when everybody's healthy postseason and you're no longer playing depleted teams, bad teams, 17-50 Charlotte Hornet teams, will the Lakers be able to play at this intensity level? But right now they're hitting threes or running the floor. It's really been interesting to see what this thing has evolved into. Clippers, they're coming together. What was that old Gene Hackman statement in movie Hoosiers? We're firing on all cylinders right now. And you look at the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard had 33 the other night.
Don't let the
high.
paint run dry.
Yeah. Kawhi had 33. James Harden is vintage James Harden. They just got Norman Powell back. And Bogdanovic, who came in a trade deadline deal, he scored 30 the other night, and he's drilling threes from the bench. All of a sudden, and Zubac is Zubac. He's really played well. Suddenly, the Clippers got 5 guys who can score. Didn't have that early because of the injuries. And now after the trade deals, that's a pretty interesting mix of guys who can put it in the hole. So suddenly the Clippers kind of look kind of cool to me, and we just got a couple weeks before postseason starts. So, John, thoughts on the Lakers, thoughts on the Clippers?
So do you think the chemistry on court is better without LeBron than with him?
That's a good question. But from a talent standpoint, if you're going to be playing deep into the spring, got to have them both. You got to have all your stars.
But it's interesting to see them without LeBron because, you know, whatever the future is with LeBron, we don't know. But, you know, if this Laker team goes young, I mean, we can get back to Showtime Lakers. No?
Anything's possible, but LeBron is age 40.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I just wonder, is LeBron been the problem all along here?
Oh, I think you're reaching for that. You're not going to denigrate LeBron's 20-year career, are you?
No. It's just the chemistry and the way all the players, you know, whether they work off each other.
Well, right now they're playing well, but I also warn you, they've played a lot of the riffraff in the league, and, you know, they get Denver, and Denver didn't have its 2 stars. Denver was dead before they ever came on the floor for the opening tip. So we get the postseason. But right now, I mean, it is fun to watch Laker basketball because right now everything is running through the big guy. And what Luka has done has been really impressive. And other guys have started to play better because the whole world's collapsing on Luka. He's still taking a lot of weird shots, bad shots, missed shots. The other guys are scoring too. So, and as this Clipper team, they look kind of dangerous to me. If they keep these 5 on the floor healthy, wow.
Yeah, wow. I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful if the Clippers actually won the NBA championship? I mean, that would be like a record to break all records, right? I mean,
oh, you're not denouncing the Cavaliers in Oklahoma City already, are you?
Well, no, I'm just saying that
you're not telling the Boston Celtics to turn the ring back in.
The Clippers have been cursed, sure. You know, going back to the San Diego Clippers, going back to the Buffalo Braves. So it would be wonderful for them to be a surprise in the NBA.
If we could have Lakers Oak City in the Western Finals, or Clippers Houston in the Western Finals, or some mix of those teams in the Western Finals, that'd be kind of cool.
But no Denver this time, I think, right?
Denver's not the same team. They ran off all their veteran experienced guards, and Denver's still got players, but, you know, if you get these guys nicked, they got nothing. And they've not been as dominant, Denver has, as last year. They had some personas who played as starting guards and guards who came off the bench. It just made a big difference, and they let those guys go. I don't think Denver is the same team from a chemistry standpoint.
Yeah, they don't look the same. But hey, how about my Warriors with Jimmy Butler? I mean, they kind of had a nice run going.
That's absolutely amazing. I mean, can they continue that? Are they deep enough to continue to do that? They are going to get Jonathan Kuminga back. He's had this bad ankle since January. So if you add Kuminga with Curry, with Draymond, and obviously Butler is playing like Butler's supposed to be playing his whole career and hasn't been playing that way. Right now, so far, so good. In Golden State. Okay, those are all things NBA basketball.
One more thing.
Go ahead.
I'm like Arnold Horshack. What do you think of the Celtics getting sold?
$6.1 billion. The Grosbeck family. Get this. They bought that franchise at the turn of the decade for $280 million.
Really?
They sold it for $6.1 billion.
Oh my God.
To a California consortium that's led by people based in New England. But that's still a good team. It's not quite the same team as that won the championship a year ago, but that's a good team. But that's in the executive suite. The only thing you worry about is what Missoula's doing on the floor with that basketball team. But there's not a lot of heavy-duty competition in the East now outside of Cleveland. So Boston, Cleveland, probably in the NBA Eastern Finals.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, here we go.
Okay. Hey, Laker line is open. Looking for a Clipper call. Feel free. Jump on board our Fans Forum chat box. We get to halftime, our Thursday podcast, headed towards a great sports weekend. Brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. There are 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. I first went to Dixie because I was desperate. My house, which was built in 1985, or not just 1975, I needed windows and I needed new doors. And what they gave me was absolutely amazing. And the more I spent time over there, they helped me with other things. I've been so impressed with DIXIELINE materials, DIXIELINE idea people. And I like to use the joke. The DIXIELINE people said, "Hey, dumbass, they're trying to help me with paint. That's not green or brown. That's blue. I'm colorblind." So anyhow, you got projects, they got materials. You want ideas, they can be your consultant. That's why the showcase store they have, showcase section over in Solana Beach, is so cool. John, you've done a lot of work with DIXIELINE too.
Yeah, terrific guys there. They've been in business for over 100 years here in San Diego. So if you're a contractor, a builder, they can service you business to business. But if you're a homeowner and you need to visit your local hardware store, you need to buy power tools, they've got it all there at DIXIELINE. Total of 9 locations here in San Diego County and the new one in Dana Point.
DIXIELINE Lumber, build it, fix it. We guarantee for 2025, you will enjoy it. You might not be doing projects right now, but maybe 6 months from now, you start thinking about doing something. Closets, tiling, floors, kitchens, bathrooms, bedroom counters.
Bookshelves.
Bookshelves. Yeah, we got a lot of bookshelves in my house. Think DIXIELINE Lumber. Hey, by the way, we're at halftime. Fans Forum chat box coming up. And again, for those of you on the live stream who are brand new, have never participated, John, just explain for the newbies, the Rookies of the Year candidates, on this live stream, how they get involved with Fans Forum.
Okay, yeah, the Rookies of the Year. We already got a lot of other folks in there already piling in. Carlos, Matthew obviously making the donations. Thanks again, Matt. Sarah Schickster. So if you have a question or comment in the world of sports for this guy, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton,
or this guy who broadcasts from the field,
type in your comment or question in the live chat on Facebook, X, or YouTube. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
Just a reminder, you like sports, please check my website. It is all written. It's there first thing every morning on the internet, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. You might be a big-time baseball fan. You'll get all the news and notes about roster cuts and injuries and what's finishing up in spring training. It might be all things NFL, free agency. You might like March Madness. We give you a breakdown of the games and storylines there. Hockey Hotline is always open. Go to that hockey page on our website, as well as other things like golf and NASCAR and Formula One, IndyCar racing. If it's out there, we write about it. LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Also, join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. There's an orange box right on the homepage of my website. Just fill it out. You'll get on the email list. If you're on social media, I want you to jump on board, become part of my Twitter All-Star team on X. Just type in my handle at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button. That way, we're trying to push this thing back up to 10,000 followers, which would just be an absolutely amazing number. Want you to share, tell everybody this mess that John has created, this podcast, and want you to subscribe. When you subscribe on the YouTube channel, you get the alerts every time one of us puts something up on that YouTube channel, and we do a lot of that. So again, all part of what we do. Give us a thumbs up, give us a 5-star rating. That helps us a great deal. Did I miss anything here?
All the pretty girls like your posts on X. It's true.
I know we get this massive rush of people that become followers, and then we get these massive defections too. But you like sports because I spend 99.11% of my time covering sports. Sometimes we write about politics, but join my Twitter All-Star team on X. John, we move to the second half. It's not hoops, but boy, there's a lot of other things to talk about.
Yeah, all of our friends in the live chat are just going crazy right now. Let's go. Let's talk Dodgers-Padres. Good news, bad news.
I told you I was going to do it. I did it. I kind of regretted that I did it because it really upset my body clock. Am I the only jerk that got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch both the Dodger games in Tokyo against the Cubs? I wanted to see what it would be like. Japanese baseball fan is really different than fan at Petco Park or Dodger Stadium. They get excited the minute a pitch is thrown. They get excited the minute the pitch is hit. In between pitches, it's respectful. It's really different venue. And then obviously when Ohtani came up, Ohtani hit a wicked line drive foul. People go, oh, and then they quiet, wait for the next pitch. He plants the next one into the upper deck in right field, and they go crazy. So Dodgers beat the Cubs back-to-back games. Yamamoto was pretty dominant. Ohtani and his friends, that cross-section of guys in the lineup, they were the reason the Dodgers won both those games. There was no Freddie Freeman. There was no Mookie Betts. They won both the games without two of their stars. Sasaki was fascinating to watch, and I wanted to see how he would handle his first start in the second game of the series. He threw 100, 101, and 99 his first four pitches. Boom. And he breezed through the first inning, and he threw some cutters that just came and dropped right off the table. I was, wow, that's right. He came out in the second inning, and it was like he was a rookie, and he freaked. He got spooked. And all I was doing was just dealing heat. And I couldn't quite understand why Will Smith wasn't calling other pitches for him. And then what happened was he couldn't locate the cutter in the second inning. And then his fastball location went away. He walked three batters in a row, walked in a run, and his pitch count kept going up and up. And he was pitching at such a fast tempo. And I've said this before, when Dodger young pitchers struggle, send Mark Prior out to the mound, let the kid take a couple of deep breaths and get it back under control. And they didn't do it. They left him out there. He threw 30 pitches. He labored in the second inning, and he just had no location at home plate. Finally got out of the second, got through the third, and they yanked him. I think he threw 56 pitches. Only 21 of them were for strikes. But he's got dazzling stuff. But this will be a bit of a process. It's obvious that he's got the two good pitches, but he couldn't control them. The third pitch, a curveball, and he never hardly threw any of that. So there's some work to be done for Sasaki. But I was kind of stunned that he was just forcing things and pitching at such a fast tempo. Nobody came in from first base to third base just to break up the rhythm and let him catch his breath. The kid was just really hyper. No doubt he's got unbelievable stuff, but they're going to have to work a little bit more with him. By the way, speaking of Dodger baseball, in typical Dodger fashion, as we get to opening day, Dodgers have 11 pitchers on the disabled list already.
It's already started. We knew a few of them were going to start the season.
A whole bunch of them are starting the season on the disabled list. But I was pretty impressed with the Dodgers. In terms of the Padres, I'm taken back that all this has happened so quickly right at the end of the Cactus League. Yu Darvish now has elbow tendonitis. Initially, it was elbow tightness. I don't know that he's going to be able to pitch next week. They want him to throw in an exhibition game or a minor league game. But if he's not throwing at all right now and he's been shut down for maybe close to a week, that's not good. So you got the Darvish situation. You obviously do not have Matt Waldron, who's going on the disabled list. They've lost Johnny Brito. So suddenly they got holes in their rotation. And their rotation right now is going to be Dylan Cease, Michael King, Nick Pivetta, and then try to figure out what they do at 4, what they do at 5. And then we still have the unsolved mystery of what's going on with Robert Suarez, which is a real problem. So the Padres are not ready to start the National League season because all these glitches to their pitching staff. I'd be really, really kind of worried about that. John, did you watch the games?
Well, I didn't stay up at 3 a.m. I couldn't do that. I couldn't pull that off. Well, I don't know how the hell you did it.
I went to bed at 10. I woke up at 3:05.
You set the alarm?
Yeah, I saw the first pitch at 3:10.
Usually you're always moaning and groaning about how you never get a full night's sleep.
No, I don't.
Well, this is why you're watching sports at 3 a.m. No, I saw the highlights, and the whole Roki Sasaki thing. I mean, put yourself in his shoes. I mean, he's making his MLB debut in Tokyo.
He was amped.
Hey, oh yeah, and everybody in Japan is watching him, and that's why his cadence between pitches was probably so fast, because his whole body clock was sped up, and that's why he lost control in the second inning. But he's a young kid. He's going to be a great talent. I mean, the Dodgers have got a good one. It's too bad the Padres couldn't sign him, but the Cubs, people are predicting them to win the NL Central, but they didn't really show much in this series.
No. I mean, Kyle Tucker, I think, is going to hit well at Wrigley Field. And obviously, they got some other guys who played well, but there's no Cody Bellinger there now. It's a little bit of a different team. And they're kind of scuffling. Do they really have, outside of Imanaga, who pitched really well in that first game? He threw 4 no-hit innings against the Dodgers. Outside of Shoto Imanaga, I don't know that the Cubs have real trustworthy starting pitchers. Justin Steele gave up home run balls all over the place in the second game. So, and again, I don't think the National League Central Division's real tough either.
No.
So yeah, the Cubs might win it. We'll just have to wait and see. But what do you think about this Padres situation with all these guys all of a sudden having these issues?
It's discouraging, but it's not unexpected because we knew that there was no room for error, right? We said if this original starting 4, we didn't know who the 5th starter was going to be. If they were healthy all year, we might be all right. But we know there's going to be problems. You know, you got to dig in and go to your 7th and 8th guy, so pull up some El Paso dudes. We're doing it sooner than we expected, and it's too bad. So hopefully this thing with Darvish isn't like a long-term problem or, God forbid, like an end of career thing. Hopefully it's just like a minor setback.
He's had elbow issues 3 years in a row now, and he had surgery in 2015. A lot of people don't remember that. But we'll just see. But the fact it started out as elbow tightness after a spring training start, and then it advanced to inflammation, that stuff doesn't calm down real quick.
Sounds like different diagnoses from different people. To him, it's tightness. Then he goes, sees the physical therapist, and they say, oh, inflammation, and now tendonitis. Not good. Obviously not good. But our buddy Stephen Kolek, who we're kind of rooting for, he got kind of rocked a little bit in his last
banged around, but he's had 3 decent starts, and I think he's probably first guy in to be maybe the 4th starter or the 5th starter.
Yeah,
I don't know where they're going to go after that.
Well, it's got to be Vasquez. I mean, because it's not Waldron, or maybe it's Hart, the new lefty. So it's going to be, we're going to have kind of, these guys are going to be opening some eyes.
Might be a bullpen day is what you're telling me.
Yeah, that too.
Okay. All things Dodgers-Padres, feel free. Jump on board. Fans Forum chat box is open. One other baseball note. Oh, we're going to touch a nerve with this one.
Yeah, I'll let you go.
Here's the story that broke in the middle of the week. The Department of Defense conducted this anti-DEI drive, and they cleansed off their website a whole series of articles that saluted sports heroes in the war. And they also deleted other information involving other famous African Americans in the war and minorities in the war. This is all the offshoot of Trump and Vance and Hegseth. They deleted for more than a day all references to the greatness of Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson, great player, person, pioneer, served in the Army, fought racism, completed his tour. We all know the history of Jackie Robinson, color barrier, Brooklyn Dodgers. The Department of Defense deleted all access to information about Jackie Robinson, in addition to information about the heritage of the Tuskegee Airmen, the black pilots who saved the B-17 bombers over Germany at the end of World War II, and one of the reasons we won. Deleted all reference to the Navajo code breakers who were instrumental in the fight in the Pacific to regain all the islands as they broke the Japanese code. That man, Trump, and his henchmen did all this whole anti-DEI thing. Anyhow, when the story broke at midweek that all references to Jackie Robinson and the page on the Department of Defense website saluting his accomplishments was deleted, there was an uproar for Major League Baseball. Rob Manfred went and talked to people at the White House. They raised holy hell for 24 hours. Veterans across the country, not just baseball fans, raised holy hell. And within 24 hours, the White House reinstated all the data on Jackie Robinson. As of this hour, they've not done the same for the Tuskegee Airmen or for the Navajo codebreakers. Just absolutely appalling. And those of you out there who voted for that man, this is what you voted for. You're telling me this is the way we should live our life on top of everything else, aka Elon Musk. It's just, to me, it's pitiful what's being done to our country. And this thing just set off a firestorm in Major League Baseball. But Rob Manfred got turned around in a 24-hour span. I was just absolutely shocked. John, floor is yours.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think we can all agree that discrimination is wrong, right? That's why we wanted Jackie Robinson play baseball, but this is like just being an asshole about it. It's like and these are the same people that say when you tear down the statues, what are you trying to do? Erase history? Well, that's what they're doing. They're erasing history. I mean, they didn't really need to go to this length of it, but we're talking about Jackie Robinson. I'm trying to stay on the sports focus. He served in the military, but was this recognition of what he did in the military, or was it also talking about the whole color barrier in baseball as part of it?
It was a combination of Jackie Robinson, the person, Jackie Robinson, the player, because he fought racism in the Army.
Oh, okay. That's a fair point then.
I mean, he was about to get court-martialed, and he won the lawsuit.
Oh, I didn't
when
know
he
that.
wouldn't go to the back of the bus. And he was a lieutenant in the Army, and he was based, I think, out of Fort Hood, Texas, capital of racism in the state of Texas. He was saluted for who he was and the courage he showed when he was in the Army, and obviously what he did and the courage he showed crossing the color barrier in Major League Baseball. For them to delete this as if he had no impact whatsoever on society, it's utterly disgraceful. I'm sorry, everything that's gone on right now makes me feel that those people are racist. Period, exclamation point. You may agree, you may disagree. That's what I feel. This was a disgrace.
It's a circus, man. It's a circus. Now, I love that we talk sports, but I also love every once in a while when there's a sports tangent into politics, you let it rip. You offer one man's opinion.
My opinion on this case, I think, is correct, as witnessed by the White House caving in to the public pressure.
Yeah, all right.
And we're not done. There's a lot more coming. I am positive about that. So, you want to respond to what the Department of Defense did? Feel free. You want to respond why you voted the way you voted? Are you happy with what you voted, what you turned our country into? Feel free to jump on board.
Oh, there goes our audience.
Okay, we're going from all things baseball. Let's talk NFL football.
Yeah, the Chargers. Yeah, what do you think of what they did in free agency?
A little bit of a report card here as it relates to the Chargers. Free agency is pretty much completed. I'd say as of midweek, we've had about 250 at least free agents change teams in about a 7-day span, which is absolutely amazing. It took them a while to determine whom they wanted, and they were not going to overpay for anybody. But I think what they offered to these players was, you get the chance to play with Justin Herbert, who's a really good quarterback. You had a chance to play in a very good division. And by the way, get a chance to play under Jim Harbaugh. Look at his resume. I like the signing of Pittsburgh Steelers running back Najee Harris. Now, granted, Pittsburgh ran a Neanderthal offense, but it revolved around him. It's not Najee Harris's problem. The Steelers have had quarterback issues for years and years and trying to rebuild their offensive line. 4-time 1,000-yard rusher in 4 years. He's a pretty good player. He's a heavy-duty runner. He's a tackle-to-tackle runner who sheds blockers, tackles, and gets yards after contact. Good acquisition. Better than the guy that got rid of Gus Edwards. Taking a bit of a gamble on MEHKI BECTON. This is a mountain of a man, 6'7", 370 pounds. He was a high number 1 draft pick out of Louisville, failed with the Jets as a tackle, had knee injuries. They couldn't keep him healthy, couldn't lose weight. Philadelphia signed him on a low-price contract. They put him inside at guard where all he had to play was here. They didn't pull him, they didn't do anything. Play here. And he cast a large blocking shadow on everybody. They got him on a 1-year contract at $10 million per season. So BECTON comes in to be the right guard. I like the acquisition. It's better than what they've had there in the past. They brought Mike Williams back. He was a big play guy down the field. A lot of mismatch yards after catch. A lot of injuries the last 2 years. His productivity has really dropped off the board, but they're bringing him back on a very affordable contract. They brought in nickelback Donte Jackson. He came from Pittsburgh, had been in Carolina before, part-time starter. Bit of a surprise, they signed Andre James, center. Starting center, Raiders. It was a deficient part of the Raiders team. Andre Jackson's going to get the chance to compete for the starting job. The names on the bottom of the screen are a collection of the guys that are gone. They took some hits. They've not re-signed J.K. Dobbins. I'm a little bit surprised because Dobbins, running behind a not very good offensive line, still had some big games and was an explosive guy after contact. Have not brought him back. Joey Bosa is gone to Buffalo. Poona Ford, the starting defensive tackle, is gone, went to the Rams. Morgan Fox, the other starting defensive tackle, was a workmanlike guy, a lot of tackles behind the line of scrimmage. He's gone to Atlanta. Obviously, Christian Fulton is gone. Gus Edwards is gone. Fulton's gone to Kansas City. Asante Samuel is not being brought back. He was visiting Green Bay and Chicago this week. But in the bigger picture, they got themselves some good players, and now they're going to go into the draft at 22, and maybe they'll draft a speed wide receiver, or maybe they'll draft one of the group of tight ends that will be available. It's going to be a very interesting draft. We'll talk more about that once we get to the month of April. So it's a different team. It's a more physical team. I kind of like that. If you're asking me, I'd rather have Najee Harris over Gus Edwards. If you're asking me, I'd like to have J.K. Dobbins with Najee Harris, but that has not happened yet. If you ask me, I don't think they've really found a solution to get people to help Ladd McConkey, but so far so good in the collection they've got, and they still got cap space left, and maybe there's a trade coming along the way. John?
Well, I don't think we should be, getting ready to take that Super Bowl trophy after those signings. I mean, every one of those guys, you can make a case for them, but, is it going to really move the needle? The only thing that sounds good in the whole description you laid out is an Eagles offensive lineman, and I'm like, okay, we definitely need that, get some bulk up front, but I want to see some bigger hits, some home runs in the draft.
They need home run players. That's what they need. They still need to solve, they need a terrorist running streak patterns down the sidelines at wide receiver. Don't have it yet,
terrorist.
But somebody scares the living hell out of corners and safeties. That's what I'm making reference to.
I know what you mean.
Okay, you're a Charger fan. Feel free, jump on board. I wish they would bring back J.K. Dobbins, because I tend to think Dobbins with a better offensive front is going to make more things happen. And Dobbins with Najee Harris, I think, pretty good acquisition. Next football topic.
Yeah, this is interesting. It's talking about some of these potential rules changes.
NFL owners meet next week in West Palm Beach, Florida. Competition committee will be there. They're going to argue and examine, and then they're going to vote on different rule changes going forward. Let me run through each one. Playoff seeding. The aftermath of what happened to the Detroit Lions, the Minnesota Vikings this past season. They are proposing that the number one team in a division, or in a conference, number one team in a conference with the best record will get the number one seed. Okay, so that was the Detroit Lions.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're going to seed the rest of the teams based on win-loss records. They're not going to seed them by division winners.
Good.
Because what you had was the number one seed and then each of the other division winners. So Minnesota wound up getting screwed despite a phenomenal record. They wound up being number 5 in the seeding. So now what they're proposing is top team gets the number one seed. Everybody else gets seeded based on their one-loss record, whether or not they won the division or not. So that's a radical change.
Interesting. That still screws a team that didn't make the playoffs. They might have a division winner that has a lesser degree.
Yeah, but odds are if you're a division winner, unless you're sitting there at 8-9 in a crapola division, if you're 8-9, you'll be the last team in, but you still get in because you're a division winner.
Right.
But they're not going to guarantee an 8-9 team the 4th slot.
Perfect.
As a division winner.
That's good.
Okay. So seeding, that's going to be the first topic that's going to be voted. Overtime. They are proposing expansion of overtime from 10 minutes in regulation to 15 minutes. Overtime will be a 15-minute period. They're also proposing each team during the regular season will get a possession rather than coin flip. We go down, we score a touchdown, game over. So they're going to guarantee it'll be a 15-minute overtime period. Each team gets to touch the ball at least one time. Like that? Dislike that?
Just go to the college system. It's so much more exciting.
No, they're not going to the college system. This is.
But it's a dumb rule because they'll say, well, you can win on a touchdown, but you can't win on a field goal. And, it's all these ifs and buts. I don't like it.
Yeah, but now it's going to be everybody gets a kick at the can.
All right. Okay. But only in the regular season?
Well, the postseason rules will stay in effect.
So that means you don't get like they could have that Eagles Chiefs thing a couple of years ago.
No, postseason, both teams get a possession.
Because that's what it's always been in the postseason. Yes. So now it's consistent.
This will be in the regular season.
Okay, now that's good.
Okay, next one has to do with quarterbacks. They're talking about giving the head coach 2 quarterback challenges. If the officials miss a call, it would be on instant replay, it would entitle, "My quarterback, Joe Burrow, got hit in the face mask. You never threw a flag. I'm going to throw an instant replay challenge. You review it. And if that's the case, we get a penalty out of it."
Good.
So they're talking about instant replay challenges on face masks and roughing the quarterback.
Good.
Next one, booth replay. Upstairs, if they see something down on the field, they can alert the referees. There was a chop block. There was an illegal crackback block. This guy got blown up on the sidelines. You need to throw a flag. Now, the replay booth in the past had the right to communicate to the referee down on the field to pick the flag up if you missed the call or made a mistake. Pick the flag up. Now they're having dialogue that we're going to go down to the referee and say, "This happened, throw a flag, delayed flag." Hey, you got the technology, get the call right. Am I right or am I right?
Just get it right, man.
Okay. Next one, tush push. Green Bay has proposed. It's a dangerous play.
Oh.
So a lot of stuff happens down at the bottom of the pile. They're going to vote on outlawing the goal line tush push that the Philadelphia Eagles hold a patent for.
That's a weak sauce, man.
You don't like that?
No. I mean, I think like the Eagles sort of figured out a way to kind of outmaneuver everybody, and it's just quarterback sneak. You know, what's the difference?
Quarterback sneak, illegal push.
Well, why not? I mean, you could push, linemen push their running backs into the end zone all the time.
Okay. And that's going to be voted on. We'll see if it gets outlawed. Next one, kickoff rules they installed last year were really good. Injuries were way down, and that's what this whole thing was about. Now they're talking about any kickoff that becomes a touchback goes into the end zone, not returned. Ball's going to come out to the 35, not the 30.
Good.
They want more returns or more balls put in play rather than most of these coaches decided, they'll kick the thing out of the end zone. They come out to the 30. Now it comes out to the 35. 5-yard difference is a big, I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know, but all I know is that Donald Trump thinks the kickoff rules in the NFL are weird. You think he's kind of sticking his nose in it?
You want me to make a political comment about the president? Onside kick. This has been an arguing point. It's not been very successful. There was an injury factor to the onside kick. They've had this debate 2 years in a row. It might come up for a vote this time. They've replaced the onside kick with a 4th down and 20 play.
Yeah.
So, John, you have a chance after scoring. Instead of having an onside kick with the risk you won't get it, or onside kick or risk your guys get hurt, we'll give you a 4th and 20. And if you convert that, that's like recovering an onside kick. You can get the ball for another possession. If you don't, my guys get the ball. I think maybe at midfield they're talking about. But so you like?
I like that. I think it's a pretty creative rule because the onside kick is now just a joke because you have to announce that you're going to do it.
Negligible.
Yeah. So sounds like an interesting change.
Okay. Hey, Fans Forum chat box is open. You want to comment on any of these hot topics about these rules? The owners in the competition committee are going to meet next week, and they're going to take some votes here. We made some changes to the rules. Last topic on the table, all things puck.
Hockey hotline. Here we go.
Let's talk about the NHL. They're opening negotiations next week with the union on a new collective bargaining agreement, and they're talking some radical changes. As we just saw with the Four Nations tournament, it was spectacular. And I said Gary Bettman should just send out a memo that the All-Star game, as we've known it in the past, is gone for good. Let's do something internationally. Well, they can't do a Four Nations tournament on a year-by-year basis. There's a lot of complexities with the different hockey federations and other global tournaments. They're talking about, though, in 2026, because we do have the Olympics coming, they're talking about having Team North America versus Team World in an All-Star game. That'd be cool. That's what I want to see, because you have all the great Euros, be they from Russia, from France, Germany, wherever. All the great European players, Scandinavia included, would go against the Team North America. Best players from USA, best players from Canada. I like that idea. That's one thing that's being discussed. They are talking, and I don't know if this is good for the game, because of the Olympics in 2026. They're talking about a 3-week hiatus, stopping the schedule in the games for 3 full weeks. A lot of players would probably like that because of the wear and tear factor of playing the grind of a schedule, but they're talking about that. And they're also talking about changing overtime. They're talking about Instead of a 5-minute overtime, 3-on-3 on the ice, make it a 10-minute overtime, 3-on-3, make it on the ice, followed by a shootout if the game is still tied. So those are things that they're discussing. Are you standing with Gary Bettman? You agree with all this or disagree?
Well, the Four Nations thing was such a success. Why go backwards and have it like continent versus continent? You know, when he had specific nations, it made it kind of interesting. I would think you keep that format and maybe even try to get other nations involved in it.
I don't know there's enough players, though. You know, there are a lot of Russians that are playing in the NHL. But what about these other countries? There's hardly any players from Poland or Hungary, Yugoslavia. I don't know that you could put together different teams representing different countries, right? Whereas if you just make it a Euro team with all the great Scandinavians and the top players from Russia, Belarus, and whomever else is out there, I think you'd have a great team against a great North American team of Team USA Canada.
Well, that's the easy way to do it. I mean, remember they did USA World in the NBA, and that seemed to be pretty good. So yeah, why not? You know, let's just. I like the 3-week break though.
Okay, 3 weeks away. That's like, would you like baseball stopping for 3 full weeks?
Well, if I had the World Baseball Classic to watch in between, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a long season. Nice to take a break.
One other hockey note. This story just broke. This is kind of cool. And I'm going to direct this towards the fans here in San Diego. You know, San Diego Gulls have been in a rebuild mode for a couple of years, and they had a hot stretch. They played really well. Now they've lost 3 in a row. Anyhow, the Anaheim Ducks, the parent club, signing college players and sending them in here for the final month of the American Hockey League season. They just signed one of their draft picks. And I would hope hockey fans here will go to a Gulls game and support this guy. It was a draft pick by the name of Will Francis, Minnesota kid, went to the University of Minnesota Duluth. They just got knocked out of the playoffs. Anyhow, he has signed a pro contract. He's coming to San Diego to begin his career for the last month of the AHL season with the Gulls. Big kid, defenseman, was highly regarded. 3-time leukemia survivor.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely amazing story of dedication. And he came back and he played this year at Minnesota Duluth after missing almost to the effect 2+ seasons of college hockey. Kid got sick, I think, at the end of high school, got sick again twice while at the Minnesota Duluth. His name is Will Francis. He's a defenseman who was highly regarded. A lot of clubs passed on him just because of the sickness. And the Ducks took him, I think, in the 5th round. They just signed him this morning. He's coming here. He'll be with the Gulls this weekend as they play on the road, and then he'll be here for the homestand at the end of the season. But thumbs up to the kid. Think about that. He fought leukemia. It's come back 3 times, and he's beaten it.
Yeah, that's a young man to root for right there. Yeah, San Diego Gulls.
Okay, that's all things hockey. Fans Forum chat box is open. We have done our job. We put a lot of topics on the table. We covered a lot of things. We gave you some opinions, probably offended a few people along the way. That's okay. Hey, listen, this podcast brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects for 2025. They got materials. You want ideas, they can help you. And if you're not doing it this week, or you got something planned in the spring or maybe in the summer, all of a sudden the light bulb goes on. Where do we go to get all the information, get the materials, get consulting help? Think these people. Go to DIXIELINE.com. Just find out what they've got to offer.
Right on.
You ready?
I'm ready. We're going to go to Matthew first.
I could get up and leave now. You could just take all the hate.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, there's a little bit of that in there because we were talking about Trump earlier. Well, let's go to Matthew. He's a good guy here, and he's always throwing some money in the tip jar. Thank you, Matthew. He goes, by John Riley's past logic, Niebla has a problem with blowing out Padres pitchers' arms. Just kidding around, fellas, but the elbow injury epidemic is such a bummer for all baseball fans.
Yeah, we're getting ready to complete 6 weeks of spring training. We have now had, with the Garrett Cole surgery last week with the Yankees, we've now had 7 elbow surgeries in 6 weeks of spring training. And at this point in time, Matt, there's no solution to the situation. I'd be concerned about the Darvish situation because this is the 3rd time he's had this elbow flare in 3 years with the Padres. And of course, he had surgery back in 2015. So they're going to have to handle it with kid gloves. Hopefully it's tendonitis, and that just comes from throwing too many different wide variety of pitches. But if it's more than that, then we're talking setback and we're talking rest. And, every injury is different. Elbow is different than forearm. That's different than rotator cuff. And Waldron's got this oblique, which takes a fair amount of time to recover from. So, yeah, pitching injuries are everywhere in Major League Baseball, as witnessed by the Yankees. We're going to do our baseball preview next week, maybe next Thursday. We're going to go team by team, division by division. But Yankees have 5 starting pitchers on the disabled list, led by Garrett Cole, their ace. They have no depth whatsoever. They got 3 top starters that are hurt. Yankees are in big trouble. And this is good. The war of attrition with pitchers, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah, there's no position in sports that's quite like this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe quarterbacks to a degree where they suffer a lot more injuries in other categories or other positions.
Take a lot of hits.
They do. I mean, and the stress on the arm. I mean, but to Matthew's point here is, yeah, we can blame Mark Pryor for all of the injuries on the Dodgers staff. And I think that's what he's going at, because we made that comment earlier, because we were wondering why that was so prevalent in the Dodger system. But now, yeah, a little karma coming back to the Padres, so they're going to have to go dig deep in that starting rotation.
I just don't know where they're going to go get more starting pitching. They don't have anything in AAA. And if your sales pitching me, well, they had Brito. Well, Brito's got forearm problems again, and he's done for a chunk of the season. And, you could say, well, they have Kyle Hart from Korea, but that's not pitching. Korea's like AAA baseball at best.
But he was the Cy Young Award winner there.
But he's hardly pitched at all, and it's AAA baseball.
Well, I mean, but they're going to have to dig deep, So it may be Vasquez. I heard the oblique problem with Waldron is not super serious.
We don't know that.
But
until he starts to try to throw with oomph.
Yeah, well, he doesn't need to throw with a lot of oomph because he throws the knuckleball. That might work to his advantage.
I don't think so. I think you're reaching for me on that. Matthew, thanks for joining us. Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Carlos. And he says, hey, when healthy, this Laker team is dangerous. Wins against the Celtics, Nuggets, OKC, T-Wolves, and so on. The key is to be healthy, and they can make a deep playoff run.
Well, it is intriguing to me, Carlos. It's intriguing to me that the whole world defensively is collapsing on Luka Doncic. And by virtue of that has allowed a lot more operating room for Austin Reeves to shoot, or even for their centers, Jackson Hayes, to get open down the paint for close-in shots, slam dunks, etc. Now, the Lakers have put together this phenomenal run without LeBron and without Rui Hachimura. But Doncic has drawn so much attention defensively that other guys have a lot more space to operate. I will also tell you, they're playing a bunch of cripples. Denver just looked totally like they didn't want to be there last night. I mean, that was horrible. And I knew that Murray was hurt. I did not know that Nikola had been scratched right before tip-off, and the Nuggets were just outmanned. And I'm sorry, I don't get excited about beating the 15-70 Charlotte Hornets or the Washington Wizards or some of the other ragtags that they've had to play. But hey, we get to postseason and get LeBron back. Fascinating to see if they can continue to play at this level, because man, they are going up and down the floor and hitting a lot of threes.
Yeah, it's all about the playoffs, right? I mean, the regular season, the NBA, sometimes you wonder, the load management thing, or they'll have a quote injury, but maybe it's not really an injury. But yeah, let's get to the playoffs, and then we'll see some real ball.
It's like life. NBA, you got to play 80 plus. Like life, you got to pay your taxes on April 15th. It's like life.
Similar.
I'm going to go to postseason. Thanks for the comment, Carlos.
Okay, we got some more here from Matthew, because he's a good man putting money in the tip jar. And this is some Dodger talk. And he says, Ohtani home run was a litmus test for how he is viewed.
Tell you what, just the way the fans reacted, I was so stunned at the respective John Q fan. With apologies, it sure didn't look like anything I've experienced in the press box or sitting with the fans in the upper deck at Petco Park. The noise and the excitement and the hate. Japanese fans are just really respectful till the ball's in play. And they go, whoa, and they were reacting. Boy, Ohtani was absolutely phenomenal. And we talked about the pressure. How about the pressure on Ohtani? He admitted that he was really, really overwhelmed with the nerves at the start of that game, because he's a focal point for the whole country. And then Sasaki was so amped early, and I thought it emotionally wore him out. But now they're coming back and they'll play here. But it was so cool. And I saw a game in the Tokyo Dome. I saw the Tokyo Giants play a game when I was doing the NFL. We went and played there in a game against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Tokyo Dome. But I went to a Japanese league game. It was just different. just really different. The ball is a different size. The mound is at a lower level. And just to respect. And the fact that Japanese fans smoke. Holy crap. They smoke indoor in a dome stadium. It just drove me crazy because the smoke would rise to the roof. It'd sit there. And our press box was up top near the roof where the smoke was. It would just, but anyhow. So the whole persona of Japanese fan is really different than Philly fan.
Oh, yeah. It's totally different. I was also in Japan in the early 90s, and I went to a game, the Seibu Lions, and then the Yakult Swallows. And I was amazed by it because the fans there had songs. They were singing like a soccer game.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh, my God, I've never seen this in a ballpark in America. And then the whole, I don't know how I'm going to try to say this carefully, but the whole like female kind of fashion statement, baseball, Hello Kitty, kind of all blended together. There's a certain energy around that with Japanese baseball, where American baseball is more like Americana, more like, dudes drinking beer, doing stuff with the family with popcorn and ice cream and hot dogs, but in Japan, it was a different kind of a vibe.
Different feel.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Okay, thank you for the input. Next one.
Oh, by the way, did that home run actually clear the fence? I think there was some controversy about that, right? The Ohtani home run.
No, it went to the back of that deck.
Okay.
In the stands.
Okay.
Man, but he launched it. Holy cow, he hit it.
Okay, let's keep moving here, and we'll go to let's go to Gary. And Gary says, hey, will Matt Waldron be with the team this year? Is it going to be Hayward or Connor Joe in left field? Great show. Thanks, Hacksaw.
All honesty, Gary, Waldron goes on the disabled list to start the season with the oblique. There have been a lot of oblique injuries this year in spring training, most of them to designated hitters and guys in the field. Those injuries can go anywhere from 4 weeks to 7, if not more. So Waldron is going to be down for a while. I'm led to believe Hayward is going to be the starting left fielder. When initially Hayward said he was going to be a rotating guy in center and right, Hayward's going to be in left, but he has not hit at all. I think he was hitting 118 as of this week. Connor Joe's hit better. I don't know that Connor's going to play on a consistent basis. Maybe Connor and Hayward will platoon in left field, and Connor can play a little bit of first base, although Arise has had a great spring and is just spraying the ball all over the place now that his thumb is healthy. So, well, I think it'll be left field by committee, and thank God the catchers got gloves because they sure didn't bring their bats to spring training. Southwest Airlines must have lost all the bats of all the Padre catchers. They didn't hit worth a lick in the spring, but they're gonna start with defensive guys behind home plate. So they think they've answered questions. I'm really going to be intrigued to see where Gavin Sheets plays. He's not played much left field. He can play some first base. Maybe he's going to be the DH. And he had a great last half of the spring. He's got 6 home runs here in the last week and a half. But is that going to continue? Because once we get to regular season pitching, you're going to face everybody's number 1 and number 2s, and Sheets has never been able to hit those guys with any consistency. I think Sheets has been maybe the biggest surprise of anybody.
Yeah, probably in the Cactus League. But, we don't talk about Tirso Ornelas anymore. I mean, that was the big talk in the first half of spring training. Now I'm wondering if he's even going to make the team.
Maybe he's a bench guy. All honesty, I think Eggy Rosario's played himself off the roster. He's just not hit, which kind of surprises me because he's had these flashes 2 years in a row at the end of the season. He came up and it can't keep them all. Somebody's got to leave. Lockridge, I think, has probably made the team as a super center fielder, super left fielder because he can run and he puts the ball in play. So, he's a pinch hitter or he's a defensive replacement, et cetera. And the guy was hitting over 300 right from the start of spring on. So I think he's played himself into opening day. And I think Eggy has probably played himself to go back to El Paso. He doesn't have any options left, but they put him on waivers. Who's going to claim him? Because you claim him, then you got to put him on your roster.
Well, I think generally speaking, they have 4 guys on the bench, and one of them will be the backup catcher. Mm-hmm. And so there's only 3 chairs, and it's musical chairs. And I don't see all these guys making it. Now, granted, they're going to be playing on the team at some point because someone's going to get hurt or there'll be some problem here. But do you think Preller makes a deal before the season starts?
I don't see what he's got he can trade. And what's he going to trade for? Because, nobody's trading you pitching. And what kind of bad message does it send to you, season ticket holder, if he trades Dylan Cease what kind of message do you get from that?
Well, it depends what you get in return. And that rumor's still been out there
Yes.
it's still cooking. So I don't know. I mean, Preller has a history of making deals right near the end of spring training.
Exactly. I hope not. I like Cease. I like King. I know a lot about Pavetta. That's a good 1, 2, 3. But I think it sends a really bad message to season ticket holder if you're going to trade one of your aces, even if you think you're getting 3 or 4 in return. I just, at this late date, I don't know if it's the proper thing to do. One man's opinion. It's probably the right one, though. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's go here to Robert. And he goes, yeah, since baseball lost strategy with the DH and the rules to shorten the game, why not stop the game after 9 innings and have ties? 2 for win, 1 for ties, 0 for loss, or only play for a win in a playoff.
Robert, you've been drinking before this podcast even started. No. Don't. That's too radical a change of the game. I mean, what they've implemented, the ban of the shift, positive. What they've implemented, pace of play, from a marketing standpoint, the speed of the game, I think that's really been a positive. But let's not go over the edge, please. Ties in baseball.
Well, just it's that line is it's ties like kissing your sister.
Yeah.
So whenever I've gone like the San Diego FC, they tied, and after the game, you just sort of feel meh. It just you don't feel great, you don't feel bad, you just kind of feel like neutral, and it's an odd feeling coming out of a stadium.
Even a couple of years ago, when they came up with the idea of the ghost runner at second base, not a ghost, but to start the 10th inning, I thought, that's too gimmicky. But then you think about putting a ghost runner at second base to start the 10th inning. That's a pressure point right with the start of that 10th inning, or 11th inning, or the 12th inning. Now they don't do it in the World Series or the playoffs. They probably should, but I think that's been a plus to the game. It adds a little bit of energy. I don't like the idea of what is it called, the golden bat. Manfred came up with this. Yeah. He must have been drinking that night too.
I think him and his buddies were.
Yeah, we could have Ohtani come back, hit in the 8th inning, but he has one opportunity to hit in the 9th. If they want to win the game, they could put him in. No, we're not doing that, and we're not having ties in baseball, Robert.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first saw his post, because I'm kind of glancing through them as you're going through Hacksaw's headlines, I thought he was making a sarcastic comment about the NFL overtime, where, well, if it's a field goal, then the other team still gets the ball, but if you get a touchdown, then the game's over, and then that. Not
if they voted in the new rule. No.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob, thanks for joining us.
Okay, let's go here to John. He goes, the NHL sees a lot of money and fan interest in repeating that 4 nations. As for the 3 weeks, there's a lot of players still dealing with injuries suffered during the 4 nations. The Caps were lucky to not have any players selected for the 4 nations in retrospect. The NHL the NHL schedule is already 82 games, not 80.
They're talking about going to 84. And the Players Association would have to sign off that. But what they're also talking about is a byproduct of we would delete some of the preseason games. And we would start the schedule the end of September rather than in the middle of October. So they'd add more games to the schedule, John, but they would extend out the calendar a little bit. A lot of dialogue, but they are opening this collective bargaining agreement conversation. I think it's April 1st is when the first meeting is going to be held.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about that gap that I think is good. Because the player, now granted, if you're in the 4 nations, you're going to be playing, but everyone else gets to rest. And then it's almost like, do you remember when we had the strike in baseball and then they had the second half of the season? It's almost like a second opening day because we're starting again, and it has that excitement again. I'm very open to this, especially if you have, a good tournament in between that gap.
And the players, this season is such a grind, and the travel is so hard in the NHL. I think they'd take a 3-week break. They would really like it, 3-week break. These guys are battered by the time you get to midseason. So we'll see where it goes, but everything has to be negotiated. Thanks, John.
Okay, let's go here to Jay McGee. He says, funny when MLB players suck, they all of a sudden get hurt.
Well, I'm not sure who he's making reference to sucking, but injuries are really become a problem, notably in Major League pitching. I went back and checked. There were 251 surgeries last year in baseball and pitching. That encompasses forearms, elbows, and rotator cuffs. But think about that, 250 plus surgeries. That's an awful lot of pitchers going down. And again, it's a variety of pitches they're throwing, and these guys subscribe to it, that this is what's going to help me win. This is what's going to help my club win. This is what's going to get me a big contract. And if I get hurt, I'll have Tommy John surgery. I'll sit out a year and come back and be healthier. But that's an unbelievable amount of guys who had surgery.
It is a lot of surgery. I agree with you there. But this whole thing is manipulated. I mean, because like I was watching the replay of the first game, Tokyo Dodgers Cubs, and they had Clayton Kershaw in the booth, and who was real glib and had a lot to say, and it was interesting. But you could tell, like, he is very comfortable being in his situation, that there's no rush for him to come back. So then it just makes you wonder, are they manipulating the injured list? You know, because they don't really need to have him playing right now. They can let it wait. And on the other hand, are there guys that are sucking, but they say, oh, well, they have an oblique injury, and now we're going to have to put him on the injured list so they don't have to cut him?
I think all the medical information has to go through Major League Baseball.
Okay, so there is integrity to that.
Yes, yeah, there is. And again, Kershaw's situation is coming off 2 surgeries. So that, I mean, but people don't cheat now, because it was the Atlanta Braves maybe 5 years ago. They were hiding guys, and they got nailed by Major League Baseball for doing that.
Yeah,
you can't do it now.
Good. Yeah, that's what I've always wondered, if they were manipulating that.
Okay, thanks, Jay.
Let's go back to another coin jar offering here from Matthew. Thanks, Matthew. Pod's in a weird spot of win now versus future assets.
It's a huge issue. Go back to my statements. Padres, this is their window. This is their window to make the World Series. And now it closed a little bit more last year when they had the chance and didn't get it done. 24 shutout innings and all that. And, you know, and the problem is there's nothing at AAA or even to a degree at AA. It's ready to come at the major league level. The other problem is all these guys under big money contracts, they're going to now another year older, and some of them have a little bit of injury history now. Machado's got one. Xander Bogaerts has got one. They got contracts you can't cut and you can't trade. So this window to win and be a World Series team has to happen pretty doggone quickly.
Well, think about, like, you know, they've talked a lot about how a lot of the Padres are healthy because Machado doesn't have the elbow problem. Tatis, all of his stuff is in the back, you know, the rear view mirror, including the ringworm and all that. So I don't know. I just think there's a new level of maturity with Tatis where he is really focused on performing. I don't know. I think some of these guys, they're in, like Machado said, he's in the best shape of his life.
But that doesn't mean he can't pull a hamstring running down first base. I mean, Tatis, it doesn't mean he can't re-injure this quad sometime chasing a fly ball into right center. I mean,
anything could happen. Yeah.
I don't know. I think the bigger question to me, we know that Machado has arrived as a star. There's been a big thread of consistency. You know, is Tatis ever going to be what he was before he got hurt? Remember, he had a 42 home run season.
Yeah.
And now he's a 25 home run hitter making mega money for 14 years. Can Tatis be a real superstar rather than just an all-star player? Because he's getting paid like he's a 42 home run hitting guy. And we haven't seen that in the last couple of years.
That guy, man, is an athletic specimen.
Yes.
I mean, just the silhouette of his body is unbelievable. And he's so tall and wide-shouldered, yet so elegant and athletic. I mean, this guy should conquer baseball. So maybe this is the year.
We'll find out. They hadn't done it in the last couple of years. He's had a lot of different nagging injuries. Got to stay healthy. Padres window is not closed, but there's an issue here in terms of time frame that I think we really need to pay attention to. You know, and from the Padres pitching perspective, Darvish has got 150,000 miles on him. He's 38. Dylan Cease is a walk-free agent. Michael King is a walk-free agent. Nick Pivetta is here on a multi-year contract. You know, he's going to get paid $19 million next year because he structured it to help him this year with the luxury tax. But suddenly, we got all kinds of pitching issues here. If Darvish can't be what Darvish has been for a long time, and we're sending Cease and King's mail somewhere else next season on opening day.
Well, we'll worry about that. We're not even to opening day this season.
I know. I'm just telling you the realities.
Well, yeah, it is a reality. Hopefully they can sign Cease or King long-term, maybe both. But yeah, here we go. How many years are left on Darvish's contract?
I want to say through age 42. So that would be 3 years, 4 years.
So age 40, 41, 42 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years. So hopefully this is just a minor thing.
I concur.
And hopefully he's back in the rotation late April, early May.
Next Thursday, circle it on your calendar. Our baseball preview. John, next question.
Next question. Let's go here to Greg. He goes, Lee and John, I hear there's an organization in Portland, Oregon, trying to get an MLB team. Topic on the table. Can Portland support an MLB team?
Well, they say they have the money together and they have the real estate on the Willamette River to build a baseball stadium. Smaller market. It'd have to be a regional franchise. Baseball's not glanced at Portland as if it's ready to expand to Portland. Nashville seems to be ahead of Portland in terms of putting together a group and the whole stadium idea. Charlotte remains out there. So that's where we are right now. Montreal is out there, but for some reason they don't seem to want to go back to Canada at this point in time. But Portland's done a lot of the things with, I think it's called the Portland Gold proposal. But in terms of having baseball look at them and say, yeah, you're a market we're going to look at. No, that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, but I like the idea of expansion. And, you know, the Northwest region, there's a lot more people there. It's a growing area. Mm-hmm. It'd be cool to have Portland have another team on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. That could work logistically. But, you know, we'll see. I mean, do you think the Rays would ever move, or any other team would move, or we are only talking about expansion?
I think we're talking expansion because, you know, the owners would say, wait a minute, why am I going to let Tampa or Miami, why would we let them move? We'll expand. A lot more money and expansion fees than letting somebody go into another market.
Well, what about the A's in Vegas? I mean, that's still not really a done deal, is it?
They seem to think it is.
So, I mean, if we're all hell went loose on that, maybe the A's could go to Portland.
True, but you got to build a stadium in Portland. That's not going to happen 2 weeks from Monday. That's a big project. Okay, we move on. Thanks, Greg.
Okay. There's a lot of other people that are dropping F-bombs about your comments about Trump.
Do you want me to leave now?
Yeah, we're not going to go there.
Well, you can. I don't.
No, I don't want to go there. Some of it is not safe for work. So let's go to do some social media here, and let's talk about the Seahawks. This is what I thought was interesting from Behoya No. DK Metcalf is not worth the money he's getting from Pittsburgh. Geno is a 35-year-old passenger quarterback who does not elevate anyone around him. You, including a team that added draft capital, freed up massive cap space going into 26 and beyond, and revamped their 23rd ranked offense, is as a loser, is the single most out-of-touch take I have seen all offseason, the most casual of casual takes.
That must be a Seahawk fan making reference to all that?
It is, yeah.
Well, that's fine. If you believe John Schneider can win with a patchwork offense, and that's what he's doing right now, yeah, granted, he's going to have cap space, and, you know, we'll see what happens with Sam Darnold. You know, we found out last week that Sam Darnold's contract has a 1 year out, that the Seahawks can say, this isn't working, we're not going to pay him again. They're paying him $35 million this season. You know, they got Cooper Kupp, so that's a short-term rental too. So we'll but Seattle's got so many issues. They had all these running backs and they have injury after injury problems. Their offensive line hasn't been very good. They've kind of gutted the defense. So it's a lot of work to be done. And all they've done is just reached and picked up this guy standing in the hallway, and that comes to my roster. And I haven't been impressed with what Schneider's done there. Now, McDonald's a pretty good coach, but I don't know if he's got enough players there in Seattle, but we'll see what the draft brings, and we'll go from there. Most all the free agents are off the board, though.
You know, I don't follow the Seahawks intently, but I just sort of peripherally. And it's sort of like they're just out there, and their guys are going in, guys are going out. They're sort of like a mid-level team. You know, I kind of lost track of them at a detailed level, you know, after Russell Wilson's best days.
Yeah, exactly. And Smith came in and he put up some numbers, but did they win? Not a heck of a lot. And then Smith had the gall to ask for $40 million a year. And they promptly traded him 5 days later and said, no, we're not doing this. So he wound up going to the Raiders. Now it's a Raiders problem because they gave up, what was a third-round draft pick, I think, to get him. But now the Raiders have to get him signed. And, geez, you hate to lose the guy. If the guy becomes a free agent, you paid a third-round pick to get a guy for 1 year. So
Well, you're the former voice of the Seattle Seahawks.
Well, I was there and watched transition. I was there with Dennis Erickson into Mike Holmgren, and that was kind of cool to see them fix that thing. It's a great football market, both the University of Washington at Husky Stadium and the Seahawks, but they're in a little bit of it's a different time now. And if you don't have a quarterback, that's a big issue now. Which Darnold shows up? Is it the Darnold that flourished under Kevin O'Connell's coaching, and it might flourish under McDonald's coaching because he's got a nice track record as a smart guy. But I thought Seattle was right on the brink when they had the wide receiver. I thought with Tyler Lockett, and they got Njibba Smith from Ohio State to go with the veteran. I thought, holy cow, this is going to be pretty good. But then Metcalf got injured, and Metcalf seemed to have attitude issues, and then they gave up on Lockett. Lockett was not a young guy by any stretch of the imagination. So it's just not the same roster, and you need players to compete.
You know what's cool about the Seahawks is they're kind of like the Oregon Ducks when it comes to their uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And they have all these different versions of combining that green and blue, and oftentimes that sort of fluorescent green.
You like that lime green, don't you?
I like it. I think it's a good look. And it's got that sort of, what's the right word for it? Sort of the artwork,
Mm-hmm.
from the Northwest, of the carvings of the birds and different things are all kind of baked into that artwork for the Seahawks.
Is that going to help them win 12 games?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you.
Were you there at the Kingdome?
Yeah.
You were in the Kingdome.
Oh, yeah. I was there when they tore the Kingdome down.
Mm.
That was historic to see them implode the Kingdome. They
Yeah.
brought me Cairo Radio brought me up for that. I was still doing the games for the 3 years I was there, and to see them hit that button and that thing imploded.
Oh yeah,
It's amazing.
it is unbelievable.
And then they built a new one right there, the new stadium right there at I think it's called Pioneer Square, that area. That's where they built the new stadium next to the baseball park.
That's why they were playing at UW.
Yeah,
for a 2
couple
3
of
years. Yeah.
exactly. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's move on. Let's do a little Padres. This is from Luis. He says, Lee, how old are you? Spring training record? Come on, man. It's the work that's done on the back fields that matters, not the games.
I concur. 1-loss record doesn't mean a hell of a lot because you're just trying to get answers on players. Luis, you're correct in that assessment. But when nobody is hitting at all, and your stars are hitting 118, and the guys you're banking on are hitting 125, and your catchers collectively, I think as of last week, all three catchers are hitting a combined 116. That give you hope for when the regular season starts next Thursday and you're facing everybody's ace in their number two and three guys in the rotation? I'm just a little surprised they've not hit. But, you want answers. Now they got problems because of what's happened to Darvish and what's happened to Waldron more than anything else. They still got some problem. At the end of the day, Luis, do you think you have a left fielder? Do you really have a major league catcher that you can live with who hits 118? Because those three guys aren't hitting at all. So there's still questions here. He's correct in his assessment. Wins and losses don't mean much, but you got to produce sometime during the spring, no?
Yeah, but the starters for the major league team, when they do play, they only go like 4 innings. Mm-hmm. And then by the time you get to the 7th, 8th, and 9th, can't keep track of them on the scorecard. You don't know who they are. And so, yeah, the games go sideways and everything. I just remember as a kid being just so thrilled that the Giants were in first place in spring training. And my uncle said, it doesn't matter. Don't pay attention to that. And yeah, it didn't matter. They went right to the tank in the regular season.
Great spring training story, Vero Beach. I'm down there. I took my talk show down there to broadcast from Vero Beach, Dodgertown. It was cool. And we were talking about young guys, old guys, Dodger heritage. Eric Karras told me the story. He said, we had the veterans met with the rookies, and we talked about how important spring training games were and getting to learn and all that and prove yourself and And he said, and by the way, just for your rookies to know, if we win the grapefruit circuit, everybody gets a TV. And the rookies' eyes went. Karras is just feeding the rookies his storyline. Oh, just amazing.
Right on, man. You told me about that because you got to interview Vin Scully when you were down there.
Oh, yeah. I interviewed everybody. Peter O'Malley was there. It was so cool. So much heritage at Dodgertown. Oh, I was so sick that Frank McCourt pulled them out of Vero Beach. And obviously, they got a great setup, great situation at Camelback Ranch with the share with the White Sox. And that was an economic, geographical issue. But Dodgertown, Vero Beach, my God, is so cool. So many stories there.
Oh yeah, even in the Jackie Robinson movie,
sure.
they show him down there at Vero Beach when he broke camp with the team.
Yep,
and that was something.
Okay, on we go.
Here's a Dodger post here since we're talking Dodgers. This is from Nerdy Max, and this is when you're asking, do all these teams have enough pitching? And he says, yeah, that's a hot take. I don't see why the Dodgers are being considered questionable. The Dodgers don't seem to have a problem, in my opinion.
I don't think there's any question about the Dodgers. I'm just quoting the statistic. The Dodgers, as of this hour, have 11 pitchers, that's Major League, and a bunch of guys at AAA on the disabled list. And a whole pile of those guys are rehabbing and coming back from surgeries, led by Clayton Kershaw, Tony Gonsolin, et cetera. But the Dodgers are really, really deep in pitching too. So Dodgers are not questionable. It's the season starts next Thursday for everybody else. You're all invited to the Dodger Invitational tournament.
Exactly. But Dustin May is kind of questionable because he was looking good and then he wasn't looking good, right? So
yeah, but they say he's going to be the fifth starter at least to start the season because Gonsolin has a back problem, and Gonsolin just got put on the disabled list too. But they got the next guy in line. The next guy's Landon Knack, who won the second game for them in Tokyo. So I mean, they're just really deep because they're a good organization in terms of scouting players.
Dodgers, man. Those guys unbelievable. All right, let's keep moving and let's get in some pro football talking about Aaron Rodgers. And this is from Nick Knack. He says Rodgers was done when he left Green Bay. Further tarnishing his record is all that remains.
Well, it's kind of sad. He's playing this waiting game. He's making everybody wait till he makes his decision. Well, Minnesota just announced this morning they're not granting him a second interview. They're not interested any longer. Now, the Vikings don't have a legitimate veteran quarterback, and maybe there's a transaction coming. They're going to get somebody because I don't think J.J. McCarthy is ready for the OTA workouts coming off that major meniscus knee surgery. But, he's got Pittsburgh's on hold. The Giants are on hold because they're waiting on him. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know why he has to go out this way. He's a Hall of Famer. Why are you conducting business this way? If you want to play, make the decision. But like I said last week, he's got an issue because he chooses the Giants. They don't have any people around him. So the Giants are a worse scenario than last year with the Jets. He goes to Pittsburgh. He has to accept the philosophy that Mike Tomlin wants to run the hell out of the ball. And were he have gone to Minnesota, it would not have been his team. It's Kevin O'Connell's team. So he's going to have to reel in his persona a little bit. I hate to see him go out like this because it besmirches what was really a great, great run. No?
Yeah, the whole thing is weird, because on one level you'd say, yeah, finish. This is probably the end of his career, maybe one, maybe 2 seasons, but probably one. Maybe he thinks I should go to the Giants, go out in New York City, but he was just in New York City. He's probably going to get boos from the fans. And then like to your point, the Giants have no other players around him, although they have that one really good rookie receiver.
Yes.
But then, you go to Pittsburgh and you're not in the limelight as much. It's a little bit out of the spotlight of
yeah, but it is the Steelers.
It is, But actually, that might be a smart way to go. Maybe kind of a conservative way for him to go out, knowing that he could be smart and he can have other guys running the ball, and maybe he can make the playoffs and make a run.
Should he have been the Raiders quarterback rather than Geno Smith?
Well,
I didn't understand the rationale because I still think he's got gas left in the tank. What did he throw for 3,700 yards in a bad situation? You go to the Raiders and he's playing for Pete Carroll, and he's going to be with Chip Kelly, who's just amazing in terms of X's and O's. But the Raiders didn't seem to have any interest in him.
Well, you see how Pete Carroll got his old quarterback, Geno Smith, because they have a relationship and he knows how and when he can trust him in certain situations. Aaron Rodgers, trust is not one of the words you use with that guy because you don't know what you're going to get. But I love following Aaron Rodgers and just the eye rolls and the smirking and all that goes with him. He's just a fun guy to follow.
A lot of dynamics to the guy. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Okay, we did put the topic on the table about the Jackie Robinson thing. Do you want to bring one or two of these people up with an opinion? Whether they agree with you or me does not matter.
Oh, you want to go there?
Well, let's try it.
Oh, okay. There's some of them, like I said, are not.
We'll apologize in advance if there's anything rude and crude here, but hey, we expressed an opinion on a story. I thought it was just because everybody around the country is writing about it and commenting on it. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. Sam the Tool Man. He goes, fuck you, hacksaw, Trump all the way.
Well, congratulations. Look what your country's becoming because you voted the way you did. Sam? Thanks for following. Next one.
What did he here say? That Tim the Hacksaw Waltz. I think it's probably because you were dancing on a topic. There was one other one in here that it was from Jay McGee. He says, "Screw liberals."
Everybody's got an opinion, including those who are wrong. Is there anybody out there that thinks that what the Department of Defense did was a disservice to Jackie Robinson? There was none.
No, there were no substantive, thoughtful comments. It was just more, rock throwing.
Okay, you can throw rocks. That's okay. Just don't cry. Go home and cry to mama if I throw one and hit you in the head. But I thought it was a terrible disservice. This whole anti-DEI thing, I think, has been a terrible disservice to society. That's one man's opinion. When you have your podcast, you can express your opinion.
Yeah.
Fair trade-off?
Well, yeah, it's got your name right on the, well, not on this screen, but it normally has your name right at the top. There it is. It says Lee Hacksaw Hamilton.
Okay, just a couple of reminders. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Build it or fix it. We guarantee you'll enjoy it in 2025, thanks to DIXIELINE Lumber. A reminder, you like sports, please check my website. I write a ton every day. It's leehacksawhamilton.com. It's there first thing in the morning for you. Want you to share, subscribe, tell everybody what we're talking about Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Want you to subscribe on the YouTube channel. Therefore, you'll get the alerts every time we put something new up there. We put a lot of stuff up there all the time. And, of course, we'll be back on Monday. We'll talk March Madness, NCAA basketball, and circle next Thursday because we're going to do our baseball preview. John and I will discuss and argue division by division races, who's hot, who's not, who's got the best team, whose team might be in trouble. So baseball preview will be a week from today, next Thursday, which is opening day for virtually everybody in baseball. That cover everything?
Yeah, but the highlight of the day is UCSD against Michigan tonight, 5 versus a 12. This could be the story of the year for San Diego if the Tritons win.
March Madness, you don't get to walk down that road very often. This is going to be fun. We will see you Monday afternoon at 1:30. It's always great to have you with us. Agree or disagree does not matter. This is your podcast. Thank you for participating. For John Riley, this is Lee Hamilton. Thanks for joining us on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to leehacksawhamilton.com.